Welcome to Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose. In this season, we journey through the realm of technology and connect with valuation and data analysis experts who are at the forefront of industry transformation. We dive deep into how technology is redefining asset analysis, identifying trends, and enhancing professional valuation skill sets. Join us as we meet with leading minds to discuss the revolutionary intersection of technology and traditional processes with our host, real estate investor, entrepreneur, and chief appraiser, Michael Hobbs.
Well, welcome back, and thank you once again for joining us for our next episode of Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose. We are so thrilled. A great conversation even this past week, Rich. Appreciate the shout out. Kevin as well. So many people just appreciating the thoughtfulness and the openness of peers just talking about, like, wow, what did life look like and how has life gone on and the experiences they've had in and around and sometimes even out of the profession. So love it. You are going to love today's episode as much or more than any of the other ones, especially here in season 4. I'm so excited to have Lucas with us. Lucas Rotter, thank you for joining us today, my friend.
Hey, great to be here, man. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Man, you're welcome. You're welcome. And, as I like to remind everybody before we get too far in, make sure to like the podcast on the distribution you're having it on, whether it's on Apple, whether you're on Spotify, whether you're on YouTube channel. It's all there on audio for you. And you're going to be posting some comments along the way, I know. But Lucas, what matters most to all of us, we just want to know, were you born this way, or how did your life ultimately intersect the real estate and valuation profession?
Yeah, I think unlike a lot of appraisers, I wasn't born this way. I didn't even know appraisal was a potential profession out there in the world. And
tell me about it.
Even in college, I didn't quite know what appraisal was.
Yeah, totally agree. I did appraisal ever even get mentioned when you went to college?
I did. I ended up doing an internship my senior year for a small boutique appraisal firm in Salem, Oregon.
Oh, okay.
And, yeah, I got introduced to that through a friend of mine who had done it the year prior.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, started out being an intern for a multifamily appraiser there in Salem, and she had me creating a market survey of the Salem market, which meant calling a lot of apartment buildings and talking to those property managers and getting information and surveying the market on vacancy, price per unit, things like that.
Oh, fascinating. So if appraisal was not on your radar screen until you had a friend mention to you about this job opportunity, what did you go to college for?
I actually went to college. I was planning on going to law school, so I got a degree in rhetoric.
Oh, okay.
And, I put myself through college, was working a bunch of, jobs while going through college.
Mm-hmm.
And, my buddy knew that, certainly always open to more jobs to make money while in college. And that's why he referred me over to this internship to make a little bit more money. And,
oh, wow.
Planning on going to law school, had, taken the LSAT, applied to schools.
Sure.
But I'd gone through this internship and then, kind of post that internship, kind of learning all the different aspects of the appraisal process and building out that survey and, trying my best to even make it more efficient. I think that's something that was certainly interesting from my perspective of seeing that, even doing that initial research, I was always trying to make the process a little bit more efficient and leverage technology in a way to expedite the process. But, my buddy hit me up and said, hey, why don't you come interview at this appraisal company that I'm working at up here in Portland and just see if it's a good fit. And, that's kind of what led me down the path of working at Colliers International, and, kind of the rest is history that we'll get into. And so it's,
that's fascinating. So you, no family in the industry, no, you didn't buy your first investment property when you turned 17, none of that background, just, no, I need to make some money. And a friend of mine reached out and said, hey, come check this out.
Yeah, exactly, man. I grew up, definitely a lower class and, making my way through, and appraisal was never really even thought of. And so certainly it piqued my interest. I did my interview with Grant Norling, who's, now my co-founder here at Valkyrie.
Yeah.
And I, interviewed with him and got along really great. He also went to the same college that I went to, so that certainly helped.
Oh, nice.
But
Where'd you guys go to college?
Willamette University in Salem.
Ooh, Willamette. You would be our first alumni from Willamette. That is, we always have a lot of firsts on this podcast. You have definitely already claimed your first of this episode and the whole set of seasons. That's impressive.
I love it.
That's good stuff.
I started working for Grant in 2008. So as we know,
Okay.
in 2008, it was kind of the bottom of the market and things were starting to fall apart. And, I was the last hire there for, a number of months, probably like 12 to 18 months.
Oh, wow.
The market just started to fall apart. And it's certainly an interesting time to be learning the appraisal process and learning how to write appraisals and how to, analyze the market.
Yeah, that was quite an interesting time, as you said, to be able to get in at that point. And yet, did you intern at any law firms during your time in college, or was it you were kind of just moving your way along, take the LSAT, and then go to school and figure it out from there?
Yeah, so I did intern in college. My junior year, I interned for a legal department that was actually for a subprime mortgage lender, which is certainly interesting. That's probably my first sort of foray into real estate was, reading through a lot of balloon notes, kind of going through that process and helping this pretty large subprime mortgage lender deal with a lot of the fallout of what was happening, right? It was already starting, in 2007. And so certainly an interesting time to enter into the real estate market.
I mean, I can't speak for you, but I'm just curious. I mean, was that just the most thrilling thing to read balloon notes?
Yeah, it certainly was not that thrilling, but it's certainly interesting. And it's just like the amount of money that people were, having to owe to a bank to, at the end of their balloon. I mean, it's certainly interesting and, definitely gave me an eye-opening experience to how the real estate industry was functioning at that time.
Yeah, it's a whole different world when you get to be reading those kind of documents and really getting a sense that while there's a lot of standard ones out there, they are created documents and there's differences in there, and those differences have a significant influence on what parties can and can't do and ultimately on property value.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing. So you got in, what was the experience like getting to call a bunch of owners and operators asking for information? I assume they may have already been doing the market study and then you were just the next team member that was making the calls?
Yeah, exactly. This is a survey that was done annually. And so it was my job to sit in the seat and dial those dials and make those calls. And, certainly it's tough because, now there's technology that, solves a lot of these, problems of like trying to call and get the vacancy and call them to understand, what are 1-bedroom units going for, what are 2-bedroom units going for. But at the time you kind of had to call and you kind of had to make it up because you're trying to get as much information out of the property owners as you can to like go into the survey. So you're saying, hey, what's a 1-bedroom rent for? Do you have any of those available? Hey, if I get a roommate and we get a 2-bedroom, what does that rent for? You have 3 bedrooms? Great. Well, what if I get two roommates? And you get on this process to really elicit as much information, through that process. And it's certainly something that you do as an appraiser, right? It's like, when to like confirm data, and you've got to do it in a way that is compelling enough to keep them on the phone, right? Because you're not making them any money at that moment.
No. And it's all about exchange of information, and they're hoping to get some, and you're just trying to keep them on the phone long enough to get as much as you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness. Is that a learned skill, or did the firm you joined actually have some pointers and training? Because that's a difficult activity to take on.
Yeah, it was a lot of trial by fire. It's like, you got to get this done. And, certainly there was some coaching and some training by the supervising appraiser, and she was fantastic and obviously well beloved in the industry and in her market area. And, some of the, property managers certainly knew, hey, this is this number. I know this number. Hey, let Shirley, know that everything's good and hello. And they were more willing to give out information.
That's helpful when there's that sense of like, hey, I know you're doing your job. We'll help you out. And was it an internal market report, or was it one, like for instance, in Chicago, we had a firm up until very recently had an extensive market analysis report that they prepared. And then they would provide it back to those who participated, but they also used it as a way to generate awareness and media as well as income. And then they sunset that, but it was very valuable.
Yeah. So this is a survey that was published on their website and, certainly sent around to all the different participants. And, it was something that I think did benefit the market and, giving an understanding of what was happening in the different submarkets, what were concessions, what was there any, free months being offered, what are the average rental rates of those, different units and the sizes there. So it served a great need. And obviously this was way back in 2007. So certainly quite a long time ago. Now
Yes.
there's certainly plenty of multifamily softwares out there that automate that entire process.
Yeah, very much so. It's and more people acquiring firms that do aggregate it so that they can incorporate it into their tech stack. That is absolutely the case. Fascinating. So you go work for this firm. You're the last hire, I think is what I heard you mention, right as we're going into the accelerating downturn. And I'm inferring, but it sounds like you didn't lose your job as many people did.
No, I didn't lose my job. I mean, my first week was learning how to digest a rent roll and, read through leases and get all that information out of leases and, really just starting from the bottom of, what is an entry level, way into the profession. And, I certainly stayed at it and was trying to learn as quickly as possible because I saw people around me, getting laid off and, full blown appraisers who had been working for many, many years.
Yes.
And so I had to make myself very valuable and I had to make myself, very efficient in my process. So it took me about, 10 months to be able to fully understand and be able to write appraisals from, start to finish. Certainly not error free, but
yes,
10 months in order to be able to hand that off to my supervising appraiser for him to be able to, review it and call out all the, errors and things like that I need to go and fix.
Totally get it. So does that mean since you were calling on multifamily operators that you guys were a commercial only firm?
Yeah. So when I started working for Grant at PGP Valuation, that's where I started working on more commercial properties, retail, office, industrial. And really focused in on those retail properties initially.
Yes. And did you ever consider either a particular property type or residential or commercial, or is it just kind of, hey, I'm here and I'm doing this and this is where I'm going to stay?
Yeah, I never even considered the residential route. It was kind of always commercial because PGP was a commercial appraisal firm and that's really all they focused on. And they were purchased by Colliers International, and so kind of the firm eventually molded and grew into being the valuation arm for Colliers International.
Oh wow, I was unaware of that. And so your team, if you will, that you got hired onto, ends up being the presence in that part of the country, or was that kind of the instigation nationally?
Yeah, so Colliers started to kind of do a roll up where they were buying all the different franchises around the US for the brokerage side. And they didn't really have much of a presence on the valuation side. Certainly they had a smaller team here and there when they essentially bought PGP Valuation to become the valuation arm of Colliers. And so they rebranded it. There was, certainly a strong presence on the West Coast for PGP Valuation. And, when they rebranded, they started to open up additional offices all over the US. And, now they've got probably 60, 70 offices all around the US where they have valuation folks, on the Colliers valuation team.
Totally get it. What was it like going to work at the firm? Did they have multiple offices at the time, or did they cover a large geography out of a single location?
Yeah. So I went to the Portland office, and so office right out of the downtown Portland.
Yes.
Certainly one of the larger offices. We had, some like 30 plus people at that office. So pretty large location.
Yes.
It was that was where the original PGP valuation started, was in Portland. So may have had something to do with it, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's impressive. So here you join and you're on this large team. What was it like when you got to start to do more than just the market study? Did they kind of move you incrementally through the process, or say, congratulations, now go appraise multifamily properties?
Yeah, so I wasn't working on multifamily properties at Colliers, just the retail shopping centers, and got into self-storage appraisals there as well. And really, you had to do all the different processes, right? You had to analyze the survey the market on rental rates. You had to go out and confirm comparables for retail shopping centers. You had to confirm sale comparables, a lot of research, a lot of market analysis. And then, more than that, you had to know how to write. Certainly something that I think is often underlooked on the appraisal side is appraisers are very good at writing. And it's something that you have to be able to convey your perspective and point of view in a way that is going to be heard and understood by the reader of that appraisal.
Absolutely. When you think back to getting to join a firm that had approximately 30 people at one point, what did you identify was some of the either good systems, some of their success principles? Because a lot of firms never get there and they don't get to work with a firm that's done that type of growth and sustained it.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly had some technology in place, and certainly they had a lot of, processes in place. They had certain teams that were focused on different property types. So they had an industrial team, they had a multifamily team, they had a retail team. And so there was a little bit more specialization that occurred in that office versus, many appraisers out there are more of a generalist and they'll work on numerous different property types. So I think the specialization certainly helped out because it allowed those teams to really focus in on those property types and just know everything there was to know about what was happening in the retail space in Portland, and it really helped to understand came with the analysis for them to actually put that into their appraisal work.
What early on, what were some of those like I can't believe kind of assignments did you get to work on? Either because like I can't believe it because this like there's no way we're going to be able to appraise this, or like I can't believe it, this was a really cool assignment.
Yeah, there was a lot of those projects, and especially when these assets were going into special servicing, and you get people who are opportunistic and looking to take on some assets and turn them around. So I mean, I remember one particular project was a shopping center that was 30-40% occupied, so a lot of vacancy.
Jeez.
And, these purchasers were looking to buy it for like a 13 cap or something, something just so wild that, it doesn't even make sense. And the time, obviously, got to get it done in a week, and, just everything sort of accelerated, and you got to work really hard to get that done and be objective and make sure you're surveying the market to have everything. And,
yes,
that's where it really comes down to having, great mentorship and, appraisers that you're working with to make sure that you have competency to handle something like that.
Yeah, those are key elements. And as you touched on, some of the benefit of having more particular asset type focus as opposed to being spread across multiple asset types. And then, oh, congratulations, you're doing a underperforming shopping center. And then, next week, okay, you're going to go do a busted condo deal. And then you're like, oh my goodness. I'm like, it's the valuation process every single time, but starting from scratch in terms of market knowledge and buyer and seller activity and everything else. That's
kind of what led me to, trying to figure out ways to be more efficient is, obviously there's a downturn in the market.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of different types of properties that are, different issues, and trying to get them done quickly, right? There's certainly an impetus to drive for efficiency and quality. And so, from my perspective, I started to build out my own technology to help myself and my team be more efficient, while working on those appraisals. And so that was certainly something that helped myself, got quite proficient at it. And I've always been pretty tech savvy and known a lot about computers and how to, leverage the technology to do different aspects. And so that's kind of the first sort of foray into dabbling into evaluation technology that I think happened for me.
You mentioned you kind of were naturally tech savvy. What were couple of the early examples, I assume with PGP, that you were working with in terms of just being more efficient and getting more done in the same amount of time?
Yeah. So one of the appraisers in the office focused on hospitality.
Okay.
And that gentleman, he retired. So it kind of left a big hole of, hey, we don't really have anybody to do hospitality. And so, and there was certainly no technology that the firm was using to service hospitality appraisals. And so, I built out an entire hospitality platform, bringing together some of the, leaders around the company who also did hospitality to figure out, what is best of breed and what is the best way to put together a hospitality platform. And so I spent a lot of time building out that hospitality, tools and templates, database, Excel, Word templates, and became quite proficient at it to the point where, after that was built out, I was able to actually bill more than three other full-time appraisers. And so that's kind of how I caught the attention of the executive management at the time to kind of understand, hey, what's going on here? How are you able to be so much more efficient than, these appraisers who have been doing this, job for many, many years? And, that's where I kind of was able to transition from, writing appraisals and building technology into just fully building technology, because they kind of asked me to tap me on the shoulder to step into a role where they wanted me to help build and design the technology that Colliers was going to use across the US. And they were, at the time, they were trying to expand from more of a West Coast presence to, have a whole national presence and compete with, the other big players in the market. And so that sort of set me off on a journey of, 6 years building out their entire technology infrastructure, and providing more efficient platform for their appraisers to use, and, really helping them to become more efficient. The average appraiser at the time was probably producing somewhere between 12 and 15,000 a month in fees.
Mm-hmm.
And, when the platform was rolled out, it certainly increased dramatically. The average production, for appraisers at Colliers was, north of 25,000, and I'm sure it's even higher now. It's obviously been several years since I've been there, but it's certainly a big increase for them to leverage the technology to be able to produce higher quality appraisals at a faster clip rate while not having to hire more staff. Right, you can get more output out of the same staff, and at this end of the day, that staff is going to be happier because they're not having to work as much.
Sure.
Because they're able to leverage the technology successfully.
That's an important piece that a lot of people miss in terms of utilizing technology, being more efficient, being more effective, where you can actually have a better quality of life. You don't necessarily have to work twice as many hours to generate twice as much income.
Yeah, you can use technology to stand apart by delivering appraisals at an unprecedented level of quality in days instead of weeks.
Yeah, that's something else. And I'm making an assumption, I don't know this for a case, but given where you started, did you only work in the local market when you were still handling field assignments, or did you have to travel a good bit in the Pacific Northwest?
Yeah, I ended up doing some hotels all over the West Coast, even a couple in Hawaii as well. Didn't get to travel there, but we had, local appraisers that were able to do those inspections and, sign off on those reports as well. So certainly got to, dabble outside of more than just the Portland metro area.
So you got to live the glamorous lifestyle of packing up a bag, flying out for an assignment, renting the car, and seeing a property, and then getting, taking the rental car back and leaving. Maybe you had to do it overnight. And then woohoo, I traveled. That was so exciting.
Definitely. It's a big part of being an appraiser. So, I think it's, living that and understanding that process certainly gives me a lot of empathy for appraisers today. In my role today, I certainly have lived it and understood it. And I've been in the trenches right there alongside appraisers, and can really understand what they're going through and how they have a real pressure to get appraisals done faster with more accurately, and they've got clients that are pressuring them and driving them on fees and driving them on times. Like it's a stressful job, for sure.
Oh, that is definitely the case. And it does have its own cycles, be them seasonal cycles or economic cycles that exacerbate that even more so. Very
Yeah,
much.
absolutely.
What did you grow up with a natural penchant towards kind of systems and technology, or was it just something you kind of stumbled into like through college or after college?
Yeah, I think I've always been passionate about technology. Even when I was in high school and certainly in college. But I always had this sort of thought that if I made that my job, I would learn to come to not enjoy it as much, and I would hate it. And so I really want to keep that passion. And so I didn't want to go into the technology field, and wanted to do something different. So I knew that I would still have that passion, but you kind of, as you grow up, you naturally gravitate towards what you're good at and what you have passion for. And I certainly developed a lot of passion for building technology to help appraisers do their jobs and do it more efficiently. I think it's just something that I enjoy. I think being an appraiser, you get an assignment, and it may be a tough assignment. Maybe it's a sandwich leasehold or something that's a little bit more atypical, but there's always some valuation methodology to employ to solve that problem, right? You can read the books, you can talk to experts in the field who have appraised properties like that, and there's always a known solution when you're writing those appraisals. But with building technology that's directed at appraisers, there was no real solution that solved everything, right? So it was a problem that required a lot of brain pain, and I think that's something that I just got a lot more satisfaction from. Really, just diving in and trying to solve problems that no one else wanted to try to solve and no one else could solve, perhaps.
Man, I don't know if you have, what's the proper term? Trademarked? Have you trademarked that? Like eliminating brain pain? I mean, that's good. I'll give you 2 thumbs up on that one. I have not heard that before, but boy, it definitely, it gets the image across very succinctly, very, very succinctly. So did you find that after you'd built some systems around the hospitality group so they could increase the performance, and you solved a problem that the industry continues to deal with, which is the brain drain from exiting professionals? Was it more because you had an opportunity to kind of stay in the technology area, which you had passion, or you just didn't love hotels as much? I mean, you could have been the hotel guy, like nationally or globally, I imagine.
Yeah, I think I just had a deep desire to help more appraisers. And, I wanted to help my coworkers, my colleagues in Portland. I wanted to help them to make more money. I wanted to help them to be more efficient because, I saw them starting families and, you know this as well as anyone, appraisers a lot of time take a lot of time away from their families
Yeah.
to do the work that's required. And, I really wanted to figure out how can I help them in a way that is actually going to be impactful enough where they can take time away from their careers to spend time with their families or spend time pursuing other hobbies that they might have and not just be stuck writing appraisals for clients while they're on vacation. And so I saw, the opportunity to leverage my knowledge and understanding of technology in a way to help colliers build out a platform. And certainly I didn't do it alone, right? There was, I had a team helping me to build out that platform at Colliers and, spent a number of years building that platform out, from the, the very beginning to the very end, right? Building out integrations with cash flow software, building out variable databases, building out all the templates for, each of the different property types.
Yes.
And not only that, but supporting it, right? We had to have a support team in place to, answer the questions of appraisers as they came up, but also had to train those appraisers. And so that was something that, I spent a lot of time doing in my role was actually going out and doing these trainings, quarterly or however often we were hiring a lot of appraisers. I would have to go on site and conduct a 2-3 day seminar where we would train these new employees of Colliers. These were people who already were certified general license appraisers.
Yes.
They knew how to appraise. They just didn't know the process of appraising at Colliers, and would walk them through that entire process. And, through that, I built tons of different relationships across the industry, met thousands of appraisers, and, really developed a lot of great friendships through that process. And, just naturally kind of evolved into, hey, we've been able to solve this problem for Colliers.
Yes.
And Colliers is one company. And certainly the entire market is much more fragmented. There's a lot of little players out there. There's a lot of brain pain that appraisers are feeling across the industry. Why not build a platform, a technology solution that can solve their problems? So it's, not just the largest commercial real estate companies that have a great technology. Why not deliver great technology to any participant in the appraisal field?
That is a audacious undertaking and a thoughtful one at the same time, because as you pointed out, that desire to serve your peers by solving problems ends up being something you not only are well suited for, but have very successfully done. And it's quite a testament to your approach. I think one thing that people face, it's a bit daunting for them, is they've experienced the same brain pain you've talked about. What is it that you either naturally possess or that you took the time to learn about being able to put structure, systems, and process in place within bolting technology, or if you will, overlaying that in technology so that you can achieve the efficiency and the effectiveness? Like, people just get stuck there. They're like, well, I'm too old and like, I don't think like, I just don't stay up all night and program an app. And suddenly like, I've got something new tomorrow. They're like, I'm still using, maybe pen and paper, maybe a tablet, maybe they've, entering some direct data into a shared drive or something along those lines.
Yeah, it certainly takes a lot of tenacity and a lot of time to build out a platform like that. And it's no difference, in building the Colliers platform. It was no difference in building the Valkyrie platform. There were a lot of nights where I wasn't getting a lot of sleep. I'd get up at 8 a.m. and go to bed at 4 a.m. Still to this day, I still, have days like that where I'm, ending up working quite a bit. And, thankfully now those days are fewer because we've got a much larger team, of 60 plus people at Valkyrie where, we've got an entire team driving the revolution that's happening.
That's really impressive. So how did, you've alluded to it for those that don't know what you've accomplished. You mentioned that your partner actually hired you. So how did
Yeah.
that come together that you would either continue to work together or reconnect and ultimately go on and start a software company serving the industry?
Yeah. So, I started as Grant Norling's trainee assistant when I got into the profession in 2008.
Yep.
And, you know, through, worked as his assistant for a few years and then transitioned into building out technology for Colliers. And then, towards the end of my, time at Colliers, like, Grant had left, another co-founder, Joe Creech, had left.
Mhm.
And they were out on their own building,
Oh,
writing their own appraisals, and they needed better software. And so that's when we kind of teamed up and brought in a fourth co-founder, Chris Owens, and built out Valkyrie. And really, Valkyrie's a modern appraisal platform that streamlines that data gathering and report writing, so appraisal teams can focus on analyzing real estate, enabling them to increase production per appraiser, and really at the end of the day, grow their business. And it's an entire platform that runs the appraisal business for appraisers. And I think that's one of the things that certainly when we started in 2016, when we launched, we launched with a few property types, just as
yeah.
core, retail, office, industrial. And
Yes.
6 months later, we added in multifamily, and we've steadily grown. But I mean, when we launched, we started with $13,000 between the four co-founders, and
Love it.
that was the seed money, that we started with, and we grew because we had a product that worked and was, ready to go to market. Right? We had appraisers literally saying, "Please take my money. I want to use this product so badly."
That's wonderful.
And certainly we had already ran, hundreds of properties through it, testing, because Grant and Joe had their own appraisal firm and they were
Yes.
using the product and helping to beta test it. I mean, we just controlled our growth and just grew slowly but surely over the years, and just leveraged a lot of connections that, and relationships that I had over the years, and trying to deliver value back to those appraisers and trying to give them their time back.
Are you running a real estate firm? Are you looking to grow your firm, streamline your operations, or prepare for an exit? Don't miss this opportunity to work with Michael to figure out your business pathway to massive success. With a growth system for business that leverages opportunities and removes obstacles that Michael has successfully taught to thousands of entrepreneurs globally. Michael's guidance will help turn aspirations into reality. Michael is a renowned figure in the real estate and business coaching worlds. As one of only 5 individuals worldwide for Entrepreneurs Organization, Michael serves a dual role, training business owner participants in the EO Accelerator program, while also upskilling EO members' impact and capacity to lead multi-million-dollar businesses. Get more out of your business. In working with Michael, you can achieve the growth, profitability, and life balance you desire. With Michael, it's not just about business growth. It's about redefining your purpose for business and for your life. If you are interested in working with Michael, contact him via his LinkedIn profile or email him at michaelh@paru.com. And now back to part 2 of the episode, where we explore new technology trends that will shape the world of real estate appraisal for years to come.
That is the only non-renewable asset that we all deal with is time. And clearly you've created a little pot of gold for a number of people, a lot of people to get more of that back for themselves.
Yeah. As we grew the company, we started to build more and more features geared towards the mid and enterprise markets. And ultimately that led us to win in those markets. When we started, it was just, handling a lot of the SMB segment, a lot of smaller shop appraisers. But as we grew, it became, definitely a product that was enterprise worthy. And we started to get the attention of, much larger firms, and
Oh, okay.
they had a propensity to want to be more efficient and to want to leverage technology. And certainly, like, they didn't want to go down the path of trying to build it themselves, because they know that that's oftentimes not a great solution, because it becomes way more expensive. And I at least had the experience where I had built out a platform, so it wasn't like I was starting from, hey, I've never done this before.
Yes.
I was starting from the perspective of, hey, I built out a platform when I was an appraiser that made me more efficient, and then I built out a national platform that helped hundreds of appraisers become more efficient. And, with Valkyrie, it was, how do I build a platform that is geared towards the much larger market and not towards just, what one company wants, but something that helps to solve the problems for all appraisers across the US.
I think it's a fantastic approach, and one that, as you said, serves up the opportunity for many people to be fulfilled because they're overcoming obstacles, the brain pain that they couldn't do on their own. They're not in a position either financially, technologically, or from a subject matter expert perspective to go out and build it. I mean, you touch on the important thing: build versus buy. Do you want to turn decades into days? Well, you do that, and that's the opportunity to work with someone who's already accomplished what you're trying to do or what you hope to solve for. And that's definitely what I'm hearing there. What's it like working in an environment of like you said, you launched with 13,000 seed money. Most people are like, I'd love to launch a business with 13,000 seed money. What's the rest of the story? Because as you and I know, that's just a small piece of how you get something like this up and going.
Yeah, I mean, my co-founder Chris and I, we built out the platform ourselves, and so I think that's probably a lot different than a lot of people's approaches, where they go out and they hire developers to build out a product.
Yes,
Chris and I built the product ourselves, between the two of us, so that allowed us to save a lot of money and costs, but certainly took its toll on us. We had to spend a lot of time developing and engineering that product. But when we launched in 2016, I mean, I was running everything, right? I was the support person. I was the salesperson. I was the developer. I was trying to onboard clients. I did it all. And I think that's certainly something that helps me to give empathy for my team and helps me to understand what they're going through as we're bringing on more and more clients every week. But it also helps me to understand and keep a sense of pace of what are our clients going through, right? This is a big change for them to be, modifying their workflow from what they're doing before to now working within Valkyrie. And, they're coming on to this high performance platform that allows them to leverage their time so much better. What's that like for them? How can we make that process easier? And having, done all those different roles across the company really helps me to see holistically, how do we make this better for them? How do we make that experience better? And it's certainly something that is true for us at Valkyrie, is that we want to give our clients the best experience possible because they deserve it. Because appraisers are out there protecting the public trust. Well, somebody's got to protect them, and we want Valkyrie to help protect them and give them all the time that they need.
Man, I say I appreciate what you just shared, because I don't know that professionals in the valuation space get to hear that very often. They always hear about protecting the public. Who's protecting them? I mean, I'm sure E&O providers probably say that, but they don't come to mind. I appreciate you mentioning that in the space. How long early on was it from, you guys just literally brute force creating this new technology platform before you're able to start actually engaging some clients? Were you able to do that within the first year? Did it take a year or two? And then how's the growth been since then?
Yeah, I mean, we had our first client in 2016.
Okay.
Started in August of 2016 when we had our first clients. And we steadily grew, right? I mean, for the first several years, we were growing at, more than 100% per year. Obviously, that's pretty easy in the first year, but to keep that pace in the second periods, you got to continue to grow. And, we certainly had a great product market fit, which I think helped with that growth. We have a insanely intuitive product that just makes it easy for people to onboard and understand how to use the product. And we remained bootstrapped up until 2022, when we actually had our first outside investor come in and infuse capital into the business.
Yep.
We bootstrapped up until that point. So we ran the business in a way that we watched every last dollar, and we ran it so that we could continue to grow. And we had grown to something like 30 people, by that time. And so, hundreds of clients all over the US. And so when you have that sort of scale, it helps to sort of you get momentum, and people start talking word of mouth. They start referring the, appraisal friends that they have. And, Michael, I'm sure you have many appraisal friends all over the US that you can call at any time and say, hey, what's going on in Miami, or what's happening in LA? Appraisers talk to a lot of each other. And, I think that partially is true because they take, appraisal institute education classes all over the US where they have to go and travel and, do that class for a week. That gets appraisers out there networking and talking with other appraisers. And so appraisers talk, they've got, and they're not afraid to tell you what their opinion is, especially if they don't like something. They're going to tell you exactly what they think. But we were fortunate enough to have a really great product that appraisers were willing to talk about and,
Yes.
and to talk up and to say how pleased they were with the product, and they became passionate about it. And so that certainly helped with our growth, word of mouth and those referrals. But we also just went to a lot of events and, got our name out there and got in front of appraisers. And, there's a lot of animosity out there with appraisers and technology. They've been taken advantage of in the market by other folks. And, it's really hard to change that narrative when that's their experience. And so we had to prove that out every single day by doing what we thought was the best way and building trust in the industry. And certainly it helps to be from within the industry to build that trust. But
Yes,
you got to continue doing what's right every single day. And you got to be unwavering in that.
those are such important points. Another first, you have a number of them. We've only touched on one of them. Another first is that you were part of NAR's REACH program, if I'm not mistaken. I remember seeing the announcement. It's something I've been very familiar with, and I spend a lot of time with people in and around that. But most people listening probably have no idea what I just made reference to. So you want to share a little bit about that and what the program is and what you got, what you learned, or how it contributed to your company, because this may inspire other people in the industry to solve more problems.
Yeah, absolutely. The NAR REACH program it's an accelerator of sorts. I don't know if accelerator is the right word, but it's a program whereby they bring you to a bunch of events. They bring in experts. They bring mentors to you to help accelerate, your growth. And it's really about trying to get you in front of, additional clients, trying to get you in front of the right folks, market participants. I mean, they open up doors that otherwise would be closed, right? Because NAR has got a lot of reach across the entire real estate industry. And so their ability to come in and be able to open up doors just really help propel and allow you to, us as a business to take advantage of those opportunities, right? It's like they're walking you right through the front door and saying, hey, here's a great company that we think you should be talking to. And when people, get connected in with companies that NAR is doing the introduction, they take heed of that and they listen. And so they'll take the time to say, hey, what is the issue that you're solving and why is this important? You've already got a captive audience there.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. I'm familiar with a couple of your cohort partners. Did you find any particular cohort peers to be insightful, useful, or even transformational in how you guys were approaching at that time, growth of the company?
Yeah, I think it's a great environment to learn from everyone, right? Everyone is going through different parts of the business and they're dealing with different aspects, whether they're more focused on construction, or they're more focused on brokers. I think one of the companies that went through after us, Rockport Val, certainly I've learned a lot from them and their process of, their success in the market and targeting it. Certainly what they're doing is, it's a tough to displace a incumbent in the market. And, there's a lot to learn from that. You learn from people's mistakes. And, I think the NAR REACH program really brings other entrepreneurs together who are kind of going through similar problems.
Yes.
Because it's tough when you're, running a company, you don't have anybody to complain to, right? It's like, you can't exactly complain to anybody, but if you can talk to your peers, that's certainly a great place to do that. And, obviously I'm involved with EO as well as you are. And that's also an outlet that I get where I can, really talk with other entrepreneurs and commiserate and understand, what's the sort of experience shares that they have that I can learn from to, better prepare myself for situations and, get a desired outcome that's really going to be best for the company.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about the value of having a peer group that is not necessarily right in the same space you're in, but they're going through similar life and business challenges. So you just have an outlet. Otherwise, you're just like Tom Hanks with Wilson. They're on the island, man. You're just floating and hoping you don't lose your one little friend. It's a dangerous place.
Yeah, you're shouting into the ether and no one's listening.
Oh, that is totally the case. Yeah, the REACH program been around for quite a while from the National Association of Realtors, because it really does, folks. I remember one of the first years when they launched it, and I was chatting with the principal at the time, and They're like, look, we're very interested in reinvesting our members' dues, a small portion of them, to help advance real estate technology. And Second City Ventures, which is, the administrator really from the reach standpoint, I think they're the largest active fund in the global real estate technology space. So, I mean, it is a high compliment to get selected to that. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, certainly an honor to be a part of that, and get investment by Second Century Ventures. And yeah, they're just a phenomenal group. And I think one of the interesting things that you said there is that NER wants to invest in these companies. I think that's an interesting thing to dissect a little bit. NER has tons of money, right, in terms of all their membership dues. They could go spend tons of money building out technology and platforms internally.
Yes.
And know that in doing so, they would probably spin their wheels a lot because they're not incentivized to build the best technology. They're incentivized to, serve their membership and things like that. Whereas, investing in companies that are incentivized to win and to be successful,
yes,
that's where they know that they're going to get the best product at the end of the day, right? It's the whole, buy versus build. They would rather people, push companies to go out and create this technology that's going to impact the industry and help them be successful and pick category winners and put their might behind them, versus trying to build it internally and just trying to, create a tool that just works for them, right? They want to provide what's best for the industry.
It's fantastic. And as one of our guests here in season 4, the whole season's been focused on peers in and around the industry in technology. And you're just one of only the second or third who has gone on to a series round. Did you all consider your 13,000 your seed round? Is that how they parked it for you?
I mean, yeah. I suppose
it's wonderful. I mean, go from 13,000 to 12.7. I mean, that's a nice little multiple of growth from C to Series A. Man, 2 thumbs up on that one. That's great stuff.
Yeah.
What for people that don't understand the importance of, and because a portion of our listeners very deeply experienced in and around appraisal, not as familiar with significant and accelerating growth, which obviously you all are successfully doing because you're serving so many needs. What have been some of your bigger challenges as you've had this great opportunity to take on funding and really go to the next level?
Yeah, I think if we sort of back up just a little bit, I think it's interesting to talk about, one of the reasons why we wanted to go out and raise funds.
Yes.
When we were totally bootstrapped, there was certainly an obstacle that we were facing when we were going to market and trying to win, some of these larger companies. They would look at us and they'd say, all right, well, who are your investors? Who's giving you money to sort of build this product? And, we would tell them that we were bootstrapped, and they would just kind of like not understand what that meant, right? They were like, this is crazy.
How can you do that? Is that possible? You're like, yeah, we're doing it right. We're not running it at a loss.
Yeah. And so, we wanted to be able to have an answer for that. And so, that certainly was one aspect of why we wanted to go out and raise funding. And I think it's certainly the growth aspect. We wanted to accelerate our growth, and, choosing a great partner to do that. Obviously, Second Century Ventures and having growth partners were great for that, and continue to be great. But really, it's about, bringing on that funding allows us to focus on our mission and focus on why we're doing what we're doing, and just gives us the time and the support to focus on that and not have to worry about, hey, we're going to run out of money or anything like that. We've got everything in place, and we can focus on doing what's best for the industry and doing what's best for the appraisal profession.
No, that's absolutely fantastic. I mean, given that opportunity, let's go back. So it's the 4 of you, and as you all scaled from 4 to approximately the 60 people that you have today, what were some of those important elements, culture, maybe people, that really helped you stay so tight-knit and execute so efficiently?
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things about, our company is we incorporate a lot of appraisal professionals into the business, right? We're built by appraisers for appraisers. And, we still hold that ethos really close. And, appraisals are the soul of our business, and we understand the challenges that appraisers are facing, and, constantly want to move the industry forward to make appraisers more successful. And, kind of with that, we also started in a pretty interesting time where we were a remote company. from the very beginning.
Okay.
And obviously Chris is in Seattle, I'm in San Diego, and
yes,
our team now is all over the US. We're a remote first company, and we've been remote first since we launched in 2016. And I think that certainly is a different process of starting a business, because you've got to keep high level of communication. So we're on Slack, we're on Zoom calls, all day to keep that high level of communication and continue to build trust and culture, and certainly something that is not as easy to do in a remote environment, right? It's much easier to do if everybody's going in the office and going through that process. But the upside is COVID didn't really affect us, right? It was just another day, because we were already working from home, and we were already, didn't really skip a beat on that side. And we
that is quite a powerful thing. I'm going to make an assumption. I don't think I'll be too far off, but did you all early on define your core values?
We did, yeah. Our core values and they haven't changed, right? They're still partnership, innovation, integrity, and passion.
Yeah.
And we take those very, very literally, right? We want to partner with our clients. We want to create innovative products. We want to operate with integrity and accurately with our client. We want to communicate accurately with our clients. And at the end of the day, we all have a really strong passion to change and improve the appraisal profession and valuations at large for the better, and impact everything we do every day.
Yeah, that continues to ring true. What would you say? A lot of people may not be familiar with the conversation around core values and that importance of team health. You mentioned being a remote first company, which really prepared you well, especially as things have gone almost in the decade since you guys launched. How has that really kept you on track and really allowed you to bring new team members on at speed versus somebody else who doesn't have those and is just kind of doing the normal, spray and pray to hire people? Clearly, you all don't have to deal with that challenge.
Yeah, I think there's two things, right? I mean, for one, we can hire the best talent across the world.
Yes.
And they don't have to all live in the same place, right? If we were only trying to source our talent from San Diego, great. There's a lot of smart people here, and we certainly could build a great company with just people in San Diego. But our ability to hire across the entire US and the world really gives us a leg up, in that we can hire the best talent for the job versus, the best person in proximity to the company.
Yes.
And that's something that certainly plays a big part in our ability to do that. And, the other side is, because we were bootstrapped for so long, I mean, that mentality stays with us, right? We don't want to have to go through and lay people off. We want to grow in a very calculated way, and we want to, grow methodically and grow in line with our revenue, right? We don't want to grow too fast, and we don't want to have to get out ahead of our skis and, grow before we have the revenue to support it. So we certainly always have that mindset of staying the course and, making hires very strategically, and not just hiring people to hire them for the sake of bringing them on to the team. We want to make sure that they're going to be solving real problems that we have in the business and making the product better.
No, that absolutely is such just an encouraging perspective for people. They might be sitting there thinking the same thing, like, hey, maybe me, a friend, somebody I used to work with, we want to go do something, as you mentioned, reconnecting with the first individual that hired you, and then bringing on the other two guys, ultimately being the four of you, and having that early on, and you just have that culture ingrained, and how that really is such a competitive advantage. It's hard to measure. If you want to go read those fancy stock market analysis, there's a number of them out there that show you the power and the value contribution of core values compared to those that don't. But more importantly, for you all to be selected in the REACH program, to have an opportunity to and choose to take on Series A funding, and then to just significantly expand what you can do, especially from an enterprise standpoint, because of who you can become at scale versus had you continue to grow from a bootstrap standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we're certainly fortunate to be able to have the funds to be able to hire these leaders and bring them on board. And these leaders have scaled PropTech solutions for, other personas, and have transformed commercial real estate in other ways. And to be able to bring them onto our team and be able to leverage their skill set and knowledge for a shared common goal of helping appraisers at the end of the day, there's just nothing greater. And, it's what, gets me out of bed every morning, is to work with my team and to spend time improving the quality and life of appraisers every day.
No, it's amazing. What are you all excited about being able to do sooner because you have, as they would say, a little more gas in the tank?
Yeah, I mean, sooner. I mean, we're always working on something. I mean, we want to really improve the product velocity. The time it takes for us to deliver new product to the market.
I see.
As we've grown over the last few years, we've built out more and more specialized tools for specific specialized assets or specialized appraisal types, whether that's eminent domain work, doing work for financial services,
Sure.
doing tax appeal work.
Yep.
That's more than just most appraisers that do that work, right? But those specialties have been certainly a lot higher velocity of workflow over the last year since the lending environment has been where it's at. So our ability to build more complex solutions and partner with large scale enterprises to help implement at scale is something that's really exciting for us. And having the funds and capital to support that growth, it's something that wouldn't be possible if we were completely bootstrapped.
I think that's absolutely fantastic. And as you touched on, there are so many different types of assets for valuation and so many different types of valuation assignments. For a lot of people, it's the kind of the 4 food groups as they refer to it.
Yeah.
and those primarily in commercial very much understand that humorous reference. But there's so much more than that. Of all things, I happen to just have been attending a Chicago chapter of the Appraisal Institute luncheon, and they invited the Cook County assessor in, which Cook County is the second largest county by property count behind LA County out there, just a little bit north of you guys, and right ahead of Harris County down there in Houston, Texas. And there's a lot of people that have never done a lending assignment because they just focus on property tax work, or ad valorem as they refer to it. And then other people have never done anything other than lending. And your ability to serve someone in the industry, no matter what they're doing, is really impressive, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, it ultimately boils down to everything that we can do to help our customers be able to put up their hand and say, "Oh, I can do that work." Right? A lot of times, our clients come to us and they come to us with the problems that they have. Right? They're trying to address portfolio, assets and portfolio valuations for their clients. They're trying to address purchase price allocation. They're trying to address eminent domain. They're trying to address, all these different specialties. And a lot of times they're like, they're having to build out these solutions themselves. Well, that doesn't make sense, right? Their clients are paying them for valuation and appraisal opinions of value. So for them to somehow be a software developer and be appraisers at the same time, when they're only getting paid to do the appraisal work, why not take that burden off of their plates and, be their true partner and build out that software for them, so that they can focus on making money. Because if they're focused on making money, they're going to be happy. Their businesses are going to grow. That means that, as their businesses grow, that means more of their team members will become users of Valkyrie, and that in turn helps us. So it's it's creating that flywheel, and you've got to give in order to get, and you've got to help them to solve the problems that they have, so that they can look like heroes to their clients. Because the better you make them look, the more it's just going to come back in spades.
Yeah, I love the reference right there, whether it was intentional or not, to be a hero to your client. I love that. Dan, I don't know if you're a Dan Sullivan fan or not, but love that reference. One thing that we've had the privilege of gaining perspective on here in season 4, individuals like yourself who have experienced a problem or a challenge, and you did something about it. What guidance might you offer somebody out there, whether they've been in the industry for a long time or they've only been in for a little while, if they're thinking like, could I go create a solution that would solve problems? Maybe 1 or 2 things that come to mind, some words of encouragement, or, hey, here's some major potholes we hit that were avoidable, but we didn't know better.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think you got to go out and do the research to understand what is the problem you're trying to solve.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to have empathy for that problem that you're solving for. You've got to have domain expertise and knowledge about that problem. So it takes learning about who you're solving the problem for. And then if you're going out to solve that problem, you got to figure out, well, what is it going to take to solve that problem? Do you need to build software? Do you need to build systems? Go read books, go talk with people in the industry and learn feedback, right? Learn what works for them. And I think that's certainly something that I did. I mean, I spent, all of my time at Colliers collecting and gathering feedback from market participants, right? The whole time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always learning and asking questions and trying to figure out, what do appraisers like? What do they not like? What are the experiences that they're having that are causing them this, conflict, or, what have they seen out there that's solving things in an amazing way that they're so happy to use. You've got to have a deep understanding of your customer and problem at the end of the day.
Love it. Love it. Well, given everything you've experienced, everything you've seen, and all that you know at this point in your life, what are you really looking forward to over the next 3 to say 5 years?
I mean, I think I'm looking for, the appraisal profession to continue its quest for better technology, and its quest for thirsting for utilizing data that they have in a much easier and better way, pulling in additional tools that are going to help them, whether that's, AI or machine learning. There's certainly a lot of different things that are happening in the market, and, the markets are extremely volatile right now, and it's tough being an appraiser. Mortgage rates are at, pre-Great Recession highs, and transaction rates are down, 50, 60%. And that means that there's less data for appraisers to consume and use within their appraisals. And so it's certainly excited to see the velocity of adoption of technology throughout our entire industry to increase. And there's certainly a thirst for it. I mean, we see it in the calls that we get across, on the Valkyrie side. People are coming to us and saying, hey, we're experiencing these problems. And
Yes.
some of these are big players in the market that, they've got their own software, but they're still coming to us saying, hey, like, we think that this is probably the better route. They're kind of seeing the light that, buying versus building is potentially they want to go down the route of not having to be a software company.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Well, Lucas, I am grateful for this hour together. It has literally flown by. I mean, I don't know that we were able to grow as quickly as Valkyrie has, but I hope we come a little bit close here in all that we've covered in this short podcast session. And yet, thank you so much for sharing about all that you've been through and your thought process around it, and the experiences you had, and how that really contributed to what you've built so far and what's yet to come.
Yeah, I appreciate you having this platform where you talk with folks in the industry to understand, what has been their path, and how are they improving the lives of the appraisal profession.
Appreciate it. Friends, as I mentioned, by now, as you know, from every other call to action here during our season, there's probably a few people you're like, man, I know someone that needs to listen to this podcast. So be generous. Maybe share it with 3 people here today, in honor of Lucas, not just 2. And of course, put some of that, some good thoughts and feedback in the comments as you like this episode and subscribe to the podcast. With that, we're going to bring this episode to a close. And as you heard Lucas say, don't be stuck with the problem, be solution oriented. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us in uncovering how technology is reshaping the landscape of real estate valuation and appraisal. Would you do a favor for someone you may never meet to influence a future that is worth building? Please scroll down and like this podcast and share your comments. Stay engaged with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, and your favorite podcast platforms to catch every moment of innovation and expertise shared. Got an idea or suggestion? Share your thoughts and questions with us. Let's continue to grow together, embracing the tech evolution that is enhancing our industry's effectiveness and efficiency. Until next time, remember, in the fast-evolving world of real estate and technology, being a part of the change is what sets you apart. Keep creating the future by striving for excellence and innovation.